What's up, Infected? Welcome to the Quarantine. Today we'll be taking a look at a game by the name of Unicornus Knights. Unicornus Knights is a game about a princess that has recently been exiled from her occupied homeland, and she's now trying to amass forces to take her castle back. Her father's recently been slain, and in the heat of the moment, she is rash and going to just beeline straight to the castle and, damn anybody else that stands in her way. But the problem is, she's going to die very quickly. You, the players, are her trusty knights that are trying to either, curve which way she goes, try to slow her down, so you can clear the way for the princess to get back into her castle. Now, how you go about doing that is 100% your choice. This is basically what Unicornus Knight's going to look like set up. And you're going to build the map according to the rulebook. And then you're going to, of course, populate it with the military tokens that you see on the board and all of the character tokens. Now, the one you see here, here, and here, those are the player standees. Then you're going to choose which one of the 4 different princesses. Their art is exactly the same. You're going to choose which one of these do you want. Do you want the social, the tactician, the lucky girl, or the warrior? You can choose randomly, or you can choose. So we're going to go ahead and select the warrior. So we're going to put the warrior princess over here, just to let us know that that is the warrior princess. You're going to give her half of her current military value, which you see in the green shield there, which if we look, she would get 4, and that's how much military she has. Then you're going to do the same thing for your characters. So for example, the Mountain Cat Band, she is going to get 2 because her maximum is 4. And Gato he has 0 because he works a little differently. But you're ready to play at that point. The game does have several other characters here that you can choose from to kind of keep different strategies, welcome. You can tell the different cards because these are brown and all the bad guys are black. So you're going to take the excess ones, you're going to put them in the box for now. They may come into play if somebody dies. Now you're ready to go. So depending on the number of players that you're using, you're going to take a number of actions. So because we're playing with 2 players, we will be taking 4 actions apiece. Now your actions are very simple. You can recruit, you can gather resources, or you can move. Those are the 3 things you can do. So moving is very simple. You can take your piece from where you're at and move anything adjacent. You will have to pay 1 resource for every military unit that you have to a minimum of 1. So in order for me to move from here to here, I would need to pay 2 resources. You start the game, each character starts the game with 10. So when we look at a tile here, this modifies how much it costs to move here. So if it were to cost me 2, it actually only cost me 1 because it's a -1. Same thing with here. That would go from here to here. It cost me 3 instead of 2. You have defense values, which reduce the number of dice if you are attacking this location. This is the number of resources you're going to gain if you collect resources, and this is the number of soldiers you're going to get if you recruit. The portrait here just shows that is where this character starts. So that's all the game is going to consist of, is taking those actions, and you get to do it 4 times. However, at the beginning of each turn, you're going to draw a card out of this event deck. Now you're going to stack it. You're going to have 3 level 1s, 3 level 2s, and 4 level 3s. If at any time you have to draw from this deck and there are no cards left, you immediately lose because the invaders have gotten too much of a foothold in your empire and you will not take it back. So if throughout the course of the game, let's just pretend that I had my maximum. I had 4 here on my Mountain Cat Band, and I were to move into a space containing enemy tokens, whether it's soldiers or whether it's an actual character like this. What you would wind up doing is you get to roll 1 die for every military unit you have. So in this case, I would roll 4 dice, and you would consult your chart here. So 5s and 6s would kill a unit. 2, 3, and 4s are a miss, and a 1 I would hurt myself. So during combat, I would have to roll these, plus any additional modifiers that I may get from support cards that you gather throughout the course of the game. And you would roll these. And in this case, there's a terrible roll because I would hurt myself twice, but I would also kill 2 of these soldiers. So he's got a total of 4. I would kill 2 of his soldiers. Now you have to assign 1 die to each soldier in the unit. So in this case, I only assign 2 dice. I would be taking 2 damage regardless because he has 4. Now, if I were to, let's just say this was a 2 and this was a 3, I can assign 1 miss, a hit, and a hit. So because I assigned the 4 dice to his 4 different soldiers, the soldiers will not be attacking back. However, if we look at the character card of the enemy that we're fighting, he has a strength value of 2. Now, even though it's the same symbol, their strength value works a little different. They would be able to also just cause 2 damage to me. Now, I can take that damage to my troops and have them die instead of me, or I can just take 2 damage to myself. Now, if I ever die, my character goes back to the box, and I can choose any character that has not fallen, and I would put it on any open space, any open starting zone on the board. Now there's a couple other things which I did not incorporate here. This has 2 shields. So these 4 dice that I would roll will actually drop down to only 2 dice because defense of like a castle or a fortress is always going to reduce the number of dice that you're rolling. Throughout the course of the game, you're going to be moving adjacent to the characters on the field. And once you do, you're going to find that character's card, and then you're going to draw a fate card, because now you are fated to that character, in which you'll reveal it. So this is begrudging respect. If you do battle with this character, after the battle, they just become your ally, which is fantastic. However, some of the other ones may have, love at first sight, or all the way up to they're a loyal soldier, there's no effect. But each character can only be fated 1 time, so as soon as they become fated, they're permanently fated. They can also be fated to the princess as well. So as the princess moves, which we'll get to in a second, the princess can also be fated as she moves through the battlefield, which could be very dangerous, but could also be very helpful as well. Now there are 2 actions that I haven't discussed yet. You can, of course, just draw a single support card, and these cards are very useful, and they range from all manners of restore health, to getting new dice, to take extra actions, to add 3 battle dice, and there's a variety of different things that you can get from these support cards. They're very useful. But probably the most useful thing you can do in this game is you can send support and resources to anybody in an adjacent hex from you. So I'm on this hex, I could give the princess more resources, or maybe I can slow her down and give her more of my military. So I have 4, I can go ahead and send all 4 of my military to the princess. Now she's maxed out at 8 and has to pay 8 resources every single time she moves, which is, could be really good for us because we don't want her running headfirst into things. However, you can also send these resources that you see. However, for every 10 resources, you have to send a single unit with it to protect it to its destination. After everybody's taken their actions, the princess is now going to move. Now, the princess always gets 3 actions, regardless of the number of players. She will always try to move the most direct path to the castle she possibly can, or if she can't, she will collect resources. Now, every time she collects resources, she will just collect 1. So in this case, she's got 8 military, so she's going to move here, which costs her 7. And then now, because it's a -1, then now she would only have 3 of her starting 10 resources left, so her remaining 2 would just be to get more resources. So now she would have a total of 5 resources left. And that's the end of her turn. But if the princess ever lands onto a space with an enemy, she will completely destroy them. Every unit she's with, so in this case 4, plus her, which her health is 3, so that is a total of 7 life that she's just going to destroy all this, but she's going to take whatever the strength value of all this was as damage. So for example, she's now at 7, or she has 8 military. She can lose all 8 of her military, 7 of her military, or she can take some of that in life and keep her military. So in this case, we'll probably go ahead and just take that military. She'll drop down to 1, but this is now dead. Keeping note, again, the princess can also be fated to different characters, and she could gain them as allies, which give her extra hit points and can negate damage and stuff. Now, once the princess is gone, all of the enemies now go. So you have 3 different types of enemies. You have aggressive, defensive, and normal. So you see here, this is a defensive. They will never move, they will just defend their castle or wherever they're at. So the guy that you saw here, he will stay there. However, an aggressive enemy, which you can see down here, so this guy will move towards an enemy, which again, the players, if they are on a hex that is adjacent to them. So if she were to be over here, he's going to move over here, bringing his entire stack with him, and anything that he moves over, such as this 3, will add to his military strength, just making him that much stronger. So these guys will chase you around the field until you fight them. If you can manage to take over the castle and kill everybody in it, all of the players are considered victorious. However, if the princess ever dies, or if you cannot draw a card, the game is over and all of the players have lost. Alright, Unicornus Knight. Well, when I first saw the game, it looked really interesting, so I was stoked when AEG was willing to give me a copy of this to review at Gen Con. So when I brought it home, I did an unboxing for it, I invited a bunch of friends over, and we read through this rule book to try to figure out how to play, and that's where we encountered our first problem. So the rule book does not read very well at all. It's very difficult to read through. There's a lot of things just are not clarified very well, but once we got over that, it took us a while. We actually wound up not being able to play it that day. I did looked up some rule questions we had online and read through the rule book probably 20 times trying to understand where some of the things were. But then I felt pretty comfortable at that point, so I invited everybody back over and we played it. And so first and foremost, the game is a lot of fun. It plays really well. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of decision making, and the game forces you into making these brash decisions that maybe you don't really want to do, because this stupid princess is going to dart straight for that castle and screw anybody in her way. And that causes so many problems because maybe you're not ready, maybe you don't have a lot of military with you. So how are you going to defeat all these huge bad guys? Because these guys are just really strong. So how are you going to fight them? How are you going to defeat them? Well, you slow the princess down, and then that way you can tactically approach everything. So you start shoving her soldiers so she slows the heck down for a bit, and then you start, massing everything, and then you take care of things that need to be done. But you don't want her to be too slow because you have that event deck that's your timer. So if it goes on too long, you're also going to lose. So then maybe you have to throw yourself at an enemy and possibly get yourself killed for the greater good for the princess. Because, if you die, you're just going to get another character out of the box. But sometimes you have to make those sacrifices, and that's really cool. That is a very, very cool design concept, because this princess is super annoying to try to deal with, but you got to do what you can. And that's really, really cool. However, the game has a slew of problems. As I mentioned earlier, the rulebook does not read very well. I did a little bit of research on Board Game Geek, and apparently some of the rules were not worded correctly, or maybe didn't have the clarification that the Japanese rulebook had. But where the biggest issue comes from are the symbols on the character cards. Now, apparently in the Japanese version, the strength number here, the strength numbers, they're the exact same symbol, but they work completely different, 100% different. And apparently in the Japanese version, this is a different symbol on the bad guy. I think it's either a different color or it's just a different symbol all around. So that right there is the biggest disconnect. It caused way more confusion than it really needed to. Because the way combat works, you're sitting there thinking about, okay, well, I can only have 4 soldiers. But this guy's got a 2, so can he only have 2 soldiers, but he's sitting on a stack of 6? How does this work? No, that's just how much damage he's going to do back to you on top of the military that he's with. And so you've got to kind of think about all these things, and the rulebook just doesn't do a very good job explaining that. Other than that, the rulebook doesn't read too bad. It's mainly combat, and the way the rulebook approaches it, it really needed to do a better job at that. Outside of that, however, the game is really fun. And, it has flaws, and that's going to turn a lot of people off. But once you get over that and you do a little bit of research and you learn how to play the game, and you're okay with the fiddliness, and you're okay with you kind of get your mind around those symbols, even though they're the same, they work totally different, and you get your head around that. The game is really cool because you have to make these really tough decisions. And do you slow the princess down? Do you slow her down a little bit? Do you try to just amass your army, slow her down, and smash her face into things, and then have to retreat and go get more soldiers, and keep doing that over again until you finally break open this shell? Do you die for your princess? Is that something you're gonna have to do? And especially once as the game goes on, it just gets harder and harder, because now the princess is going right up the middle. So a lot of the enemies that are on the sides, if they're aggressive, they're going to start closing in on you and closing around you. And that's really tough, and you have to deal with that, and you have to keep the princess safe. And so overall, I do recommend the game if you're willing to go that extra distance to fully understand the rules. Whether that means go to Board Game Geek and ask questions or anything like that, just know the rulebook does not read very well. It's a bit hard to read, and it needs to go into detail a lot more in a few places. But if you're okay with that and you're okay with the fiddliness, the game is fantastic. It's a little escort mission, and I say little, it takes about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, I think, from what we played. But it is a lot of fun, and you're gonna have a blast with it. So there's plenty of replayability here, and it's good, fun game. It's just brought down a little bit by some glaring issues. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time in the Quarantine.